What up, all you amazingly beautiful people out there? And today is going to be the deck profile of my Lucario Crawdaunt deck. But this build is going to be of the build that it was supposed to have, rather than the build you saw during that matchup. So let's get right into it. First up, for Lucario EX. Yeah, he's the main guy of the deck, main boss, and all because of that second attack, Corkscrew Smash. 2 fighting energy, 60. Draw cards until you have 6. Missile Jet is pretty good too, 1 for 30 and goes to resistance. And then there's Somersault Kick, which you'll seldom use, 3 fighting energy for 100. 180 HP, pretty solid. Now there's going to be a lot of ways to work with that Corkscrew Smash, but we'll get into those in a little bit. Next up we run 3 Corphish. Water type. And then the main point of the Corphish is to run his evolution Crawdaunt. Now let's take a look at that Crawdaunt ability, Unruly Claw. When this Pokemon from your hand when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may discard energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, which can be very, very annoying. Like against something that has a double colorless, you would evolve that, double colorless gone. Even on, let's say, a Primal Ground, they had like a strong energy or something. Crawdaunt, get rid of it. So yeah, does not protect from abilities that Ancient Trait has. And finally, we got 2 Shadow Power Landorus. Now this is just to get energies from our discard back into our Lucarios. Now this may seem a lot similar to SHZTCG Lucario, but a lot like with Lucario Garbodor. Just in case you haven't seen it, guys, yet, you should totally check it out. I'm trying to prove that Lucario decks are better than SHZTCG, rather choosing heavy damage output over item locking. So that's the whole point behind that. And we go and get right into our supporters. Alright, for supporters, we got the obvious for Professor Sycamore. And what it does, you discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Best supporter, one of the best supporters we got. And next up for draw supporters, we have 2 Shauna, 1 Ace Trainer. Shauna, you shuffle your hand, draw 5 cards. Ace Trainer, and the new support we got from the Ancient Origins, you can only play this if you have more prize cards left than your opponent. Both you and your opponent shuffle your hand to your deck, then you draw 6 cards, your opponent draws 3. Now I'm only using these supporters because this is more of a standard build, but if I was going to expand it with this, you could bet I'm playing N, because there is no replacement of N whatsoever. I mean, those two are okay, but they are not as good as N is. I'm sorry, they're not. Alright, so next up, obviously for a fighting deck, we got 3 copies of Karina. Search your deck for a fighting Pokemon and an item. Very, very good. And next up, to help out with our Crawdaunts, we have 3 copies of AZ. You put one of your Pokemon into your hand, you discard everything else attached to it. Now the reason I run AZ over Super Scoop Up is because it's guaranteed, and also, even though it's wasting a supporter for a turn, gonna go back to the Lucario, draw support right here, which is why I don't run as many draw supports as most decks does. Lucario is really most of the draw support you're going to need in this deck. Very, very rarely should you have to use any of these draw supports whatsoever, but you never shorthand them. Alright, next up, 2 copies of Hex Maniac. In my opinion, a very good supporter. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, no one has abilities whatsoever. So it's in a way bringing back that Lucario Garbodor sense, I almost said Crawdaunt, but in form of supporter. I personally think this card is very, very good, and it has helped me out many times. I'm just disappointed I didn't get a full art. Tell you, I would own at least like 3 or 4 of those. Alright, and for our one-ofs, 1 Lysander, bring out a Pokemon from the bench, and 1 Zerosic, discard a tool of special energy either side. Just your standard text. So that's it for the supporter line, and we could go right into the items now. Alright, for our items, gonna start with our standard 4 copies of Muscle Band. Whenever this is attached to one of your Pokemon, that Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage. And it's also a tool, for those of you who don't know. For those of you are new to the Pokemon world and to our channel. Next up, 3 Ultra Ball, best way to search out Pokemon, aside for Karina. Discard 2 cards from your hand, look for any Pokemon you want. Good to thin down your hand as well. And our staple going to be 3 copies of VS Seeker. Get a supporter from your discard into your hand. One of the best item cards we got right now. And speaking of tools and items, we have 3 copies of Headringer. You attach this to one of your Pokemon's EX, your opponent's Pokemon EX, and that Pokemon EX attacks cost 1 more colorless energy. Again, very, very annoying and disruptive. And imagine that on top of the heavy power Lucario has, which for those of you who are new to fighting and Lucario stuff, you're going to find out soon. Also, we run 2 Enhanced Hammer. Even though we're running the 3 line of Crawdaunt, that only works on the active and not the bench, so always want something to hit the bench. Next up, our 2 one-of items. We have 1 Switch and 1 Professor's Lair to search out 2 basic energies. Switch does exactly as it says. It switches out your Pokemon with something on the bench. And next up, going to be our Stadiums. 2 copies of Fighting Stadium. Each of your fighting Pokemon, well, each both yours and your opponent's fighting Pokemon, do 20 more damage to any Pokemon EX. Very powerful. And I'm also going to be running 2 copies of Faded Town. Anytime between turns, put 2 damage counters on each Mega Evolution Pokemon, which I think could be pretty annoying, especially with how popular Mega Evolved Pokemon are. So yep, that's all the trainers in this deck. Last up's going to be the energies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 basic fighting energy, and 1, 2, 3, 4 strong energy. Strong energy, it can only be attached to your fighting Pokemon, and whenever you do attach it, it does 20 more damage. So gonna give you all a quick lesson in case anyone is new here. You got your Lucario EX, got a strong energy attached, got a basic fighting attached, got a muscle band attached, and you have a fighting stadium in play. Your Corkscrew Smash base damage 60s now all of a sudden doing 80, 100, 120 to a Pokemon EX. Now let's get rid of that and get this Phase Town here. 60, 80, 100, and 2 more damage counters in between turns if it's a Mega Evolved Pokemon. But the upside is that it goes all of the Mega Pokemon. So even if they have a bench Mega, it gets affected too. So that's one of the upsides of that. Now let's go even more brutal here and attach a second strong energy here and Fighting Stadium. 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. 140 damage for just 2 energy. That is very good. And same exact thing as before with the Fade Town. 2 more to a Mega, and Mega's all over the bench. So yeah, it doesn't have the disruptiveness Seismitoad did, but it's got the power that it lacked. And 180 is pretty solid. Just fighting in general is a very powerful type right now. So for those of you fighting fans out there, I definitely recommend this deck. It's a lot of fun, and this is the original build, so it does a lot better than the one I used. Nah, but that was a fun match. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was a really good, close match. So anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a powerful like, comment, and subscribe down below. It will make Lucario happy. Very happy. This has been End with the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and see y'all later.